A brutal clash leaves nothing but chaos in its wake. Amidst the fallen, a desperate cry for mom cuts through the silence. A lone woman stands over the defeated, her daughter watching in horror. The mother's face is a mask of sorrow as she whispers her daughter's name. Faya. Faya grits her teeth, struggling against the collar locked around her neck. She screams in rage and frustration, demanding to be freed from her chains. A hulking figure in a metal mask emerges, calling her mother a voodoo sorceress. He holds Faya captive, delivering a cold ultimatum: surrender or the girl pays the price. The villain taunts the mother, knowing she can't bear to see her child harmed. With no other choice, the mother vows to sacrifice everything for Faya's sake. Faya's memory flashes back, her desperate cry for her mother echoing through time. She remembers a solemn promise, a hand reaching out in vain. A younger Faya stands alone, surrounded by the ashes of that broken vow. Her anguish explodes, screaming their oath to never be separated. But in this world, voodoo is the power to grant wishes, a dangerous temptation. So what does someone with nothing left to lose dare to wish for? The scene shifts to a logging camp where a new command is about to be given. A hulking figure announces a last chance for the captives gathered before him. His subordinate complains about their poor results, desperate to escape this dead-end post. Meet the boss, Iron Mask, a slave trader more worried about his promotion than the lives he controls. He demands the captives prove their worth, all for the sake of his own honor. One woman dares to ask the forbidden question: what happens if they don't sell? His subordinate erupts, screaming that their sale is not a question of if, but when. With a sharp command, the captives are sent back to their endless labor. The subordinate's face is a mask of pure frustration, tired of this dead-end job. But among the crowd, a pair of piercing red eyes watches with silent contempt. Qua complains to his boss about the filthy little thing, certain no one would ever buy her. Iron Mask reveals the girl's mother was a powerful voodoo sorceress, sold for a fortune. His underling panics, citing the Emperor's decree, but the boss just scoffs at his rigid morals. Iron Mask boasts about building results, yet a heavy shackle tells a different story. Qua reveals there's just one tiny problem with their prized captive. The girl collapses, overwhelmed by the impossible weight of her task. It turns out the sorceress's daughter has absolutely no talent for voodoo. Iron Mask dismisses the issue, musing that unsold slaves can still be dealt with. A guard towers over the fallen girl, berating her for her weakness. He snarls with contempt, ordering the damn slave to get up immediately. Faya desperately pleads for a moment's rest, explaining her poor health. Her cries are met with the chilling grip of a whip and a cruel threat. But then other captives rush to her defense, shielding the child from the guard. A woman fires back, asking the guard if he's prepared for her to actually die. The guard sneers, accusing the others of wanting Faya gone for their own selfish gain. He scoffs and walks away, admitting it's just too much trouble if she actually dies. The other captives ignore his taunts, gathering around to comfort the exhausted girl. But one man watches from a distance, unable to comprehend their compassion. Faya looks on, bewildered by the unexpected kindness in this cruel place. The woman who stood up for her approaches with a gentle, reassuring smile. She introduces herself as Tanir, a small act of humanity in a world that has none. Tanir offers a hand, a simple gesture promising to help Faya back to her feet. Hesitantly, the young girl whispers her own name, Faya. The scene cuts abruptly to a bowl being filled, a stark reminder of their meager existence. Mealtime in the camp is just another test of survival, with everyone fighting for scraps. Faya points out her meager portion, only to be cruelly dismissed for her small size. Dejected, she walks away with her bowl, but a familiar voice cuts through her despair. An unexpected invitation comes from other captives, offering her a place among them. Overwhelmed by the kindness, Faya stammers a refusal, trying to isolate herself. Tanir gently insists, creating a rare moment of community in this harsh world. Her hesitation hangs in the air, a testament to a life where trust is a luxury. A sudden coughing fit betrays her words, revealing the true extent of her fragile health. Finally joining them, Faya opens up about her past, admitting she nearly died from a plague. Her story of survival strikes a chord with an old man who recalls a similar tragedy in his own family. Another captive explains they were all captured during a great famine, too weak to fight back. Faya clutches her bowl, grateful for the food but utterly bewildered by their compassion. She finally asks the question that's been eating at her: why is everyone being so kind? Tanir reveals a voodoo sorceress once saved them, so helping Faya is their way of paying it forward. But Faya coldly dismisses their sentiment, calling it all meaningless. She confesses her mother was only captured because she chose to save her, a burden she carries every day. Faya warns them not to expect anything, admitting she has no voodoo talent to offer. Her tough facade crumbles as she breaks down, overwhelmed by guilt and despair. Tanir gently reaches out, asking Faya to try and find a little hope in this dark place. The old man chimes in, laughing that all they want is for everyone to find a little happiness. Her resolve finally breaks, and with a quiet sigh, Faya accepts their kindness. As she takes the food, Tanir reveals the grim fate of another captive, a boy silenced by their masters. But their moment of peace is shattered as a rough hand yanks Faya out of the circle. Thrown to the ground, she looks up in terror at the man who's been watching her. It's the silent observer, and he sneers down at her, calling her a disgusting voodoo brat. He accuses her of being a demon spawn, blaming her kind for cursing innocent people. The man then scolds the others for their compassion, calling their kindness an irrational waste. Tanir leaps to Faya's defense, screaming that he's gone too far. Faya can only look down in shame, his cruel words echoing her deepest fears about being a burden. The old man calmly reassures her, explaining that fear is born from ignorance of voodoo's true nature. The old man reveals voodoo is a simple transaction, a balance of give and take. To receive a wish, one must first offer something of equal value to the spirits. Faya remembers her mother teaching her this very lesson, a memory tinged with rain and sorrow. The scene shifts to a village gripped by plague, their cries for help echoing in the past. Her mother desperately channels her power, begging the spirits to save her people. But her pleas are rejected, the spirits refusing to accept her deal to heal a dying man. In her desperation, she wonders what more she could possibly offer as a sacrifice. A young Faya peeks in, witnessing her mother's desperate struggle. Warned to stay away, Faya is frozen by a sudden realization. There's blood on her arm. Her mother's frantic concern turns to stunned silence at the sight of a simple cut. A desperate thought crosses young Faya's mind. Maybe her own blood is the key to unlocking voodoo. But her attempt fails, leaving her to believe she just wasn't chosen by the spirits. Her mother rushes to comfort her, forbidding her from ever trying to make such a dangerous deal again. As her mother tends to the small wound, Faya feels a comforting warmth spread through her. Yet even in that moment of peace, a flicker of something dark crosses her young eyes. The memory shifts to that night with Faya tucked away under her covers. Suddenly her eyes snap open in the darkness, filled with pure terror. A horrifying vision consumes her, a swirling vortex of darkness with a single malevolent eye. The nightmare bleeds into reality as a dark substance seems to pour over her, a curse taking hold. The flashback ends, revealing Faya in the present, gasping and trembling from the traumatic memory. The nightmare's after effects rack Faya's body, forcing a dark substance from her throat. Tanir jolts awake, her face a mask of concern as she rushes to the girl's side. Faya warns her to stay back, horrified by the black blood staining her makeshift bed. She stares at the dark stain, declaring that any talk of hope is completely pointless. With crushing despair, Faya insists someone as worthless as her has no right to even wish for hope. Tanir's heart breaks for the girl, her expression filled with sorrow and pity. She pleads with Faya to stop her self-destructive words, reaching out a comforting hand. Faya's gaze is hollow, her spirit seemingly broken beyond repair. The next day, a cry rings out as a massive tree begins to topple in the logging camp. It crashes to the ground with devastating force, right in the middle of the working captives. The guards push the captives to their breaking point, screaming about impossible quotas. Amidst the chaos, Faya is lost in a painful thought, her breath catching in her throat. She wonders what might have been if she'd had her mother's power back then. Could all this suffering have been prevented if she wasn't so powerless? Their work done, the captives are herded into wagons bound for the shipping yard. A heartbreaking moment reveals Tanir as the old man's daughter, about to be separated. Tanir's plea to stay with her father is met with the guard's brutal refusal. With a final, callous command, their journey to an unknown fate begins. The guards mock the captive's compassion, revealing they covered Faya's work for a whole month. Huddled in the darkness, Faya is consumed by guilt over their sacrifice. The wagon rattles on, carrying its cargo of broken spirits toward an uncertain fate. One man voices their shared dread, fearing he'll be left unsold yet again. Another scoffs, questioning if being sold is any better than a life of endless labor. Whispers of gladiator pits and a longing for home fill the suffocating darkness. A grim acceptance settles in. They've lost the right to even dream of a normal life. But Tanir refuses to surrender, urging them to cling to even the smallest sliver of hope. The word hangs in the air, and for a moment, Faya stops coughing to consider it. In the depths of her despair, a single desperate wish begins to take shape. All she wants before the end is to see her mother just one more time. And as that wish solidifies, a brilliant power explodes from her, shocking everyone. The wagon jolts to a halt, leaving the captives confused and weary. One brave soul decides to peek outside and investigate the sudden stop. He leaps out, calling to the other wagons, only to be met with a terrifying silence. Back inside, the others can only wonder what's happening as a hand falls limp outside. The man is instantly overwhelmed by a dark, unseen force, his investigation cut brutally short. Faya and the others can only watch in horror as their hope is extinguished. A chilling voice announces a change of plans. This wagon has a different, far grimmer destination. Iron Mask stands over his victim, offering a cold, mocking apology for the inconvenience. He turns his attention to Faya, sneering that a slave's wishes are utterly worthless. With his men behind him, he delivers a twisted lesson. Only those with value get their wishes granted. Iron Mask recalls another voodoo sorceress, the Forest Witch, who spoke of similar wishes. He reveals this witch is a regular client, buying his unwanted slaves to help him meet his quota. Suddenly, his men begin their brutal work, piercing the wagon's canvas with their spears. Iron Mask declares that all this cruelty is simply for the sake of his own honor. He vows to use any power necessary to achieve his ambition, his eyes burning with fanaticism. A man falls before Faya's eyes, a victim of the guards' merciless attack. A desperate cry rings out as a young girl watches her brother fall. The wagon descends into a scene of utter chaos as the captives are overwhelmed. Faya watches the horror unfold, realizing with dread that this isn't what she wished for. In a moment of chilling clarity, she understands the terrible, bloody price of her desire. Faya is crushed by the grim aftermath, believing a slave should never dare to wish. A grim tableau reveals the devastating price paid for her one desperate desire. With cold indifference, a guard orders the victims to be piled by the tree stumps. Iron Mask's subordinate laments the irony. If only the girl could actually use voodoo. But Iron Mask mocks his subordinate's pity, revealing her fate would have been far worse with the Forest Witch. This mysterious witch, he explains, pays a premium to collect other voodoo sorcerers. He then cruelly reveals Faya's mother was also sold to the witch, taunting her about their reunion. But the grim cleanup is interrupted by a guard's sudden discovery. Miraculously, Faya is the lone survivor, leaving the guards to ask what comes next. Iron Mask gives a chillingly casual order. Do whatever you want, just be done by dawn. Dawn breaks on the grim aftermath, the price of a single wish laid bare. A splash of crimson on the cold ground marks the end of another life. The mark left behind is a cruel, jagged signature of their fate. Faya's mind retreats to a gentler time, her mother's voodoo healing a simple cut. She remembers her mother's lesson. Voodoo is a simple exchange of wants. But even then, young Faya felt powerless, her offerings to the spirits always rejected. The question that has haunted her for years escapes her lips. Is she truly worthless? Her mother's answer is swift and certain, a declaration of unconditional love. In that warm embrace, Faya felt like the most precious thing in the world. Her mother's lesson continues, revealing the existence of special spirits known as the Iluwa. Her mother explains these special spirits, the Iluwa, grant wishes in exchange for something of equal value. They seek out the desperate, and her mother reveals she'd sacrifice anything for her one true wish. That wish was to never be separated from Faya, a vow her daughter tearfully echoes. A solemn promise made in a gentler time, now a memory stained with blood. Back in the present, Faya's own desperate wish finally takes form in the darkness. A terrifying face emerges from the void, a Lua answering her call and asking for her desire. Before this monstrous spirit, Faya finally speaks the words that will seal her fate. She wishes to get her mother back from the Forest Witch, willing to sacrifice everything she has. The spirit's reaction is a silent, scribbled shock, perhaps at the scale of her wish. With no turning back, a chilling finality hangs in the air. The deal is made. A twisted tree of darkness bursts from the ground, born from Faya's desperate pact. The guards recoil in terror, recognizing the horrifying signature of true voodoo. Faya is reborn in shadow, her body now a vessel for the Lua's terrifying power. Her subordinate panics, but Iron Mask simply orders his men to capture the girl. The slave trader sees only profit, believing this power is his ticket to a promotion. A close-up on the spirit's eye reveals a chilling, otherworldly intelligence is now in control. One guard warns of the voodoo, but another scoffs, trusting their superior numbers. His overconfidence is met with a swift and brutal end from a shadowy tendril. She moves like a phantom, a blur of dark energy cutting through their ranks. The battlefield becomes her canvas as she unleashes a storm of retribution. A defeated guard can only stare in disbelief as his life fades away. The remaining men tremble, realizing the child they tormented has become an unstoppable monster. Even Kwa is caught in her grasp, his pleas for help swallowed by the darkness. Faya unleashes a whirlwind of destruction, her movements a deadly dance of vengeance. Her new face is a terrifying mask, its swirling red eyes promising nothing but ruin. The guards' numbers mean nothing as she carves a path through them with shadowy blades. One man reaches out for a life that's already been claimed by the encroaching darkness. His final moments are lost in a violent burst of pure, unbridled power. Behind the mask, there is no trace of the girl she once was, only a cold, terrifying void. But a familiar voice cuts through the chaos as Iron Mask finally steps in to halt the rampage. Iron Mask desperately tries to bargain with the spirit, asking for its one true wish. He grabs Tanir as a hostage, offering a twisted deal for his own survival. But the possessed Faya simply walks forward, a silent specter of vengeance. Her advance is slow and deliberate, ignoring his frantic shouts to wait. Panicked, the slaver offers the one thing she wants, the location of the forest witch. A chaotic memory flashes, the day her mother was torn away by these very men. Tanir looks on in terror, caught in the crossfire of a deal made in desperation. The spirit strikes without hesitation, its dark power lashing out at the hostage. Through the mask, a cold eye reminds us that voodoo is the power to grant wishes. But to make a wish come true, a price of equivalent value must always be paid. A bloodied cleaver is held tight, signaling the grim consequences to come. The spirit weeps, asking what a person with nothing left can possibly wish for. A new bloody chapter begins, built on a foundation of sacrifice and sorrow. The girl who lost everything now ignites the flames of a burning revenge. A monstrous power has been unleashed, a horned entity born from absolute despair. A new perspective emerges, questioning the meaning of a life devoid of any wishes. Iron Mask walks through another camp, complaining that he hates slaves with dead, hopeless eyes. He scoffs at the idea of life's value, declaring that for him, worth is only measured in cold, hard cash. His frustration boils over, blaming these broken slaves for his failure to meet his sales quota. A grim-faced man appears, ordering a young voodoo brat to follow him into the darkness. A young boy nervously asks where he's being taken in the dead of night. His grim guide introduces himself as Tyburn, leading him deeper into the dark woods. The boy questions Tyburn's hatred for voodoo, receiving a cold, resentful answer. Tyburn declares he can't stand their unreasonable methods, leaving the boy to quietly absorb his words. Without warning, a massive cleaver is thrust into the boy's hand, startling him. Tyburn reveals the knight's brutal task: split all the firewood or they're not going anywhere. The camera pans to a daunting field of tree stumps, an impossible quota for one small child. He trembles under the weapon's immense weight, protesting that the task is beyond his strength. Tyburn scoffs at his weakness, delivering a harsh lesson on self-reliance and personal worth. He ends with a cruel taunt, daring the boy to use his supposed voodoo powers to finish the job. Tyburn twists the knife, reminding the boy his mother was sold because he was powerless. The boy channels his fury, bringing the heavy cleaver down with a resounding crack. He grits his teeth, explaining his mother only surrendered because he was used as a hostage. Exhausted, he clings to the hope that her skills have earned her a better fate than this. But Tyburn cuts him off, warning him not to speak of things he can't possibly comprehend. He paints a grim picture, revealing the Empire's hatred for sorcerers and the terrible possibilities for his mother. The boy erupts in denial, screaming that his mother would never suffer such a fate. Tyburn coldly points out her sacrifice was for nothing, as they both ended up in chains. He then poses the ultimate cruel question: does the boy's life even have any meaning? With every ounce of his being, the boy roars back that it does, refusing to be broken. Tyburn asks for meaning, and the boy gives him one raw answer: "I promised." His eyes burn with a furious red as he vows to get his mother back, no matter the cost. A monstrous power explodes from him, fueled by his unbreakable oath to save his mom. But the scene shifts back to Faya, chained and broken, her body failing after her own pact. She gasps for air, her eyes spiraling into madness as the Elwa's power consumes her from within. In a horrifying twist, the spirit turns on its own host, raising a cleaver against Faya. But the possession falters, the weapon falling as the Elwa loses its grip on reality. Faya collapses, coughing violently as the dark entity begins to detach from her. The spirit itself screams in agony, clutching its head as the pact shatters. With a final, violent burst, the Elwa is torn from Faya's body, ending the nightmare. The Elwa spirit is violently ejected, its shadowy form tumbling into oblivion. Faya is left on all fours, gasping for air as the last remnants of dark magic fade. Her eyes lock onto Tanir's still form, a horrifying casualty of the spirit's rampage. She then sees Iron Mask's body nearby, another life claimed by her desperate wish. The full, bloody aftermath of her pact finally registers, breaking her completely. A scream of pure agony rips through the silence as she clutches her head in despair. Coughing and trembling, she whispers the horrifying question, "Did I do this?" Stumbling through the wreckage, she desperately calls out for Tanir. But the only other survivor, the man from the camp, roars at her to get away. Faya screams back in terror, warning him to stay back, afraid of the monster she's become. The surviving captive points an accusing finger, branding her a murderer. Faya stumbles back, weakly denying the horrific truth of his words. He screams for the monster to stop, his fear creating an impassable gulf between them. She pleads desperately, her mind too shattered to form a coherent thought. The man flees in terror, leaving Faya to scream Tanir's name into the empty clearing. Reaching into the void, she begs him to wait, not wanting to be left alone. Her hand slams into the dirt, cursing the cruel fate that's befallen them all. A single tear escapes as a low growl of pure agony builds in her throat. Her grief finally explodes in a soul-shattering scream that echoes through the forest. She collapses, lost in denial, unable to accept the devastating price of her wish. Lying in the dirt, Faya screams that this horrifying outcome is not what she wanted. A chilling voice cuts through her despair, asking if she regrets the deal she made. Suddenly, a strange masked figure shakes her awake, demanding to know why she removed its mask. Utterly bewildered, Faya can only stare back, her mind a complete blank. The figure hangs upside down from a tree, scolding her that this is no time for confusion. It orders her to put the mask back on and surrender her body to its control. Terrified, Faya demands to know who this creature is and what's happening. The spirit simply declares that their interaction is all part of their deal. Her mind reels, unable to process the impossible situation she's found herself in. The entity leans in close, calling her a fool for forgetting the pact they made just last night. Faya's memory clicks into place, recognizing the voice that sealed her terrible fate. The spirit introduces itself as Mask Child, a Elwa born of resentment, confirming their pact. It lectures her on the basic principle of voodoo, a simple, unavoidable exchange. The Elwa reminds her this is a lesson her own mother taught her long ago. Faya screams in agony, ordering the intrusive spirit to get out of her head. But Mask Child is confused, reminding Faya that she was the one who offered it all. The spirit lays out the terms. To find her mother, she sacrificed her everything. And the first part of that price is a heavy one, her very freedom. The Elwa's chilling eye stares back, declaring her freedom now belongs to it. Utterly defeated, Faya asks if the deal can be broken, determined to find another way. Mask Child complains it's stuck with a whiner, admitting their pact binds them together forever. It calls their bond an invisible chain, but hints that new conditions can always be added. The spirit loses its patience, ordering Faya to put on the mask and surrender her body. Terrified, Faya demands to know what the Elwa plans to do with her. The spirit reveals its dark origin, born from the collective pain of souls who died unjustly in the forest. Its one true wish is chillingly simple, to spread endless resentment across the world. Faya's eyes widen in horror, finally understanding the monster she's made a deal with. A voice from the past calls her name, pulling her into a sudden, vivid memory. She recalls her mother leading her through the forest, hoping to introduce her to the Loa. But even back then, her mother wore a sad smile, as Faya was never once chosen by a spirit. Her mother's sad smile haunts her, a reminder of the girl who was never chosen. But those memories of joyful days are the only thing keeping her going. Now reaching for her mother means staining her own hands with the lives of others. She questions if this endless cycle of destruction is the only path back to her mom. The thought of a reunion built on a mountain of bodies is too much to bear. Faya refuses this bloody fate, desperately searching for a way to change the terms. She proposes a new deal, but the Elwa scoffs, asking what she could possibly offer now. Mask Child mocks her, declaring that a girl with nothing has a value of absolute zero. Faya clenches her fist, insisting her only wish was for a reunion, not a massacre. Standing amidst the ruin, she finds a new resolve, ready to defy her cruel fate. But their argument is cut short as horrifying monsters claw their way out of the trees. Mask Child reacts instantly, tackling Faya out of the path of a devastating strike. Faya screams in terror as more grotesque creatures surround them in the clearing. The Ilwa calmly identifies them as beasts, failed spirits that feast on human souls. As Faya processes this horror, she spots another survivor desperately trying to flee. It's a woman from the camp, her pleas for help echoing through the monster-filled woods. But she's struck down, and Mask Child coldly blames Faya for this new tragedy. The spirit reveals the souls of the dead slave traders have become a beacon for these beasts. Overwhelmed, Faya grabs the Elwa, screaming that their only option is to run for their lives. But Mask Child gives a chilling ultimatum: put on the mask, or it will take control by force. Faya stares back in disbelief, unable to comprehend the spirit's demand. Mask Child gets right in her face, growling for her to hand over control immediately. She's thrown back by an unseen force, her refusal met with instant aggression. A vision flashes, showing the skeletal remains of a beast crushed by an immense power. The memory reveals the creature's brutal end, pinned beneath an impossible weight. Its broken form lies twitching, a testament to the force that defeated it. Back in the present, Faya screams as the dark mask forcibly fuses with her face. A grotesque monster towers over her, drawn to the scent of her newfound power. But the Elwa's eye glares from her hand, now gripping a familiar, deadly cleaver. With a single, fluid motion, she cleaves the beast's head clean from its shoulders. The beast can only scream as their monstrous forms are torn asunder. Mask Child revels in the fight, declaring that a living body is the ultimate prize. The spirit preaches to the cowering monsters, proclaiming that life itself is the greatest value of all. With that, it decides to loosen up by unleashing a storm of pure destruction on the remaining beasts. The Elwa laughs maniacally, mocking the stupid brat whose body it now controls. It delves into Faya's fragmented memories, recalling the deal Iron Mask tried to make for his life. The spirit vows to make full use of this body in their quest to find Faya's mother, but inside her own mind, Faya is just a terrified child facing down an overwhelming monster. The Elwa's eye glares from within, coldly dismissing the new threat for being in its way. A shadowy tendril erupts, silencing the beast's roar with crushing force. Mask Child roars a challenge, swinging its cleaver with terrifying force. The beast is utterly annihilated in a chaotic explosion of dark power. Nothing remains but a black scar carved into the forest floor. But the spirit sighs, admitting this level of control is becoming difficult to maintain. It reveals that possessing a body with a soul still fighting back is a constant struggle. Yet, Mask Child is confident that with enough practice it will completely break Faya's will. Another beast is sent flying, a testament to the Lawa's overwhelming might. Just as the battle seems over, a new presence makes the spirit pause. A horrifying new creature emerges, its only words a desperate plea for its own destruction. Mask Child marvels at the beast's power, wondering just how many souls it devoured to become this twisted. Mask Child laughs in the face of a monstrous new challenger, ready for another fight. But its attack is cut short by a brilliant, unexpected force from above. The spirit is slammed to the ground, its shadowy form flickering in surprise. Now completely fed up, Mask Child screams at the endless horde to back off. It prepares a final attack, but the beasts are the least of its worries. Suddenly, a massive bolt of lightning crashes down, clearing the entire battlefield. Even the powerful Elwa is stunned, unable to comprehend this new power. A mysterious man appears in the smoke, revealing he was drawn by the beasts. But as he walks through the carnage, he declares he's found a far greater monster. His gaze locks onto the Elwa, recognizing its eyes are a swirling vortex of pure resentment. The stranger correctly guesses a Lwa has taken her body, prompting the spirit to demand his identity. He deflects the question, but the Elwa notices a strange detail. His prosthetic hand has 6 fingers. With a heavy sigh, the mysterious man confirms he is in fact a voodoo sorcerer. But he's not just any sorcerer, standing calmly amidst the defeated beasts. His piercing blue eyes reveal his true purpose. He hunts monsters just like her. He gives himself a simple, chilling title: a hunter. The man who arrived in a flash of blue lightning is a force to be reckoned with. His calm demeanor radiates a power that completely shifts the battlefield. In the aftermath, Faya gasps for air, suddenly finding herself back in control of her own body. Her mind reels, realizing this hunter neutralized the powerful Lwa in a single stunning instant. Faya stares at the fallen beast, wondering what kind of man appeared like a bolt of lightning from the heavens. The hunter channels his power, a brilliant flash erupting from his prosthetic hand. He effortlessly deflects the Elwa's attack, moving with blinding speed. A powerful blast of energy shoots from his hand, crossing the battlefield in an instant. The Elwa is sent flying, the hunter's attack hitting with incredible force. But the spirit lands deftly, using its cleaver to dig into the ground and regain its footing. It retaliates with a storm of shadowy stakes, filling the air with deadly projectiles. The hunter, now masked, laughs as he weaves through the attack, calling the effort useless. He mocks the Elwa's slow and predictable voodoo, further enraging the powerful spirit. The hunter threatens to finish the Elwa just like Iron Mask, then pauses, shocked by his own slip of the tongue. The Elwa scoffs, asking why a man about to die is so full of questions. Perched high in a tree, the spirit declares that playtime is officially over. The hunter's expression hardens, a cold realization dawning on him. He clenches his fists, knowing this battle must be finished quickly. But the Elwa is ready, declaring the roles of hunter and hunted have just been reversed. With a manic laugh, the hunter suddenly rushes forward to meet the challenge. He unleashes a serpentine blast of energy, screaming for his opponent's demise. The Elwa dodges with contemptuous ease, the attack barely grazing its mask. Enraged, the spirit charges, vowing to tear the hunter limb from limb. It strikes with blinding speed, but the hunter remains unfazed as a single drop of blood falls past his eye. The hunter twists the Elwa's arm, landing a solid blow in their brutal exchange. He sends the spirit spinning away, proving he's more than a match for its raw power. A pained cry escapes the mask, a rare sign of weakness from the powerful Lua. But the spirit retaliates by creating a swarm of shadow clones to overwhelm him. The hunter easily sees through the trick, shattering an illusion with a single punch. His eyes narrow with focus, sensing the perfect moment to turn the tables. A sudden blast sends him flying, as the Elwa reminds him who's in charge. Perched high above, the spirit taunts him, confident in its superior agility. But the hunter has a new plan, realizing the Elwa hasn't fully mastered its new body. The spirit scoffs at his deduction, annoyed that its physical limits have been exposed. The hunter admits the fights are taking a toll, but he's not about to back down now. The Elwa scoffs from its perch, promising the hunter hasn't seen its true power yet. With a confident smirk, the hunter challenges the spirit, his hand glowing with energy. The Elwa's dark power slams into the hunter's hand, shattering the prosthetic. With a cry of "how foolish," the spirit believes it has crippled its opponent. It leaps from the treetops, mocking the hunter's pathetic voodoo as it dives in for the final blow. But the hunter's shattered hand reveals a hidden mechanism, reconfiguring itself for a counterattack. A sudden blast of energy erupts, sending the surprised Elwa flying backward. The spirit realizes its mistake. The hunter wasn't just adapting, he was setting a trap. The hunter declares that no matter how fast the Elwa is, it can't outrun lightning. The hunter unleashes a blinding flash of lightning, his trap sprung to perfection. The Elwa is consumed by the massive explosion, its dark power overwhelmed in an instant. Faya's body is thrown from the blast, the Elwa's possession violently broken. The hunter stands over the fallen girl, confused by the slave shackles on a sorcerer he thought was Iron Mask. He realizes the truth. This is a child whose body was stolen by a Lua, a complete mystery. But questions can wait, as he realizes the sorcerer is on the verge of death. He refuses to let his target die, deciding to rush the child to his nearby cabin. But a sudden realization stops him dead in his tracks. Faya struggles to her feet, gasping as the last remnants of dark magic are painfully expelled. With a bloody hand, she reveals a strange voodoo charm, declaring the fight is far from over. The hunter's eye widens in shock, recognizing the source of this new power. He's instantly ensnared by crimson tendrils, a voodoo trap sprung from the charm. Internally, he admits this level of willpower is dangerously unexpected. His resolve hardens, knowing he must end this fight decisively no matter the cost. But a new voice mocks his predicament, asking how it feels to be completely paralyzed. A terrifying sorceress emerges from the shadows, challenging him to a duel of voodoo. She revels in his capture, promising a slow and agonizing end. The hunter struggles against the crushing grip, his own power seemingly useless. With a maniacal laugh, she vows to shatter his mask and the man behind it. She unleashes a final devastating attack, screaming for his demise. The hunter raises a finger, admitting his opponent has the upper hand. He concedes she's superior in stamina, speed, and just about everything else. But he reveals that for a sorcerer, physical prowess isn't the whole story. With a flick of his fingers, he prepares to give her a lesson she'll never forget. He then unleashes an overwhelming blast, showing her the true meaning of voodoo. The sorceress is caught in the explosion, her mask shattering from the sheer force. Her body is sent tumbling through the air, utterly defeated by his hidden power. Suddenly, Faya finds herself in a memory, a familiar voice calling her name. Her mother's worried voice echoes from a bowl of water, asking where she's been. Across a dark void, her mother reminds her of their promise to never be separated. A tearful Faya confesses that after being separated, she was completely lost. She admits through the darkness that she was terrified by everything that happened. Her reflection trembles in a single tear as she whispers that she just can't. She screams that she can't endure it anymore, vowing to never be separated again. The vision shatters, the water bowl exploding as a dark presence watches from the corner. Faya is violently snapped back to reality, chained and alone in a grim, dark room. But from the shadows, the twisted forms of the dead captives rise, demanding to know why she survived. They swarm her, their ghostly hands pulling her down into their collective despair. Faya fights back in a panic, screaming for the horrifying apparitions to let her go. Overwhelmed by the dead, she cries out for her mother, a desperate plea for help in the suffocating darkness. A gentle voice cuts through the suffocating darkness of her nightmare. A hand reaches out, offering a lifeline from the depths of her despair. But Faya can only scream for her mother, still trapped in the horrifying memory. Her eyes snap open, jolted from the nightmare into a completely new reality. A chorus of strange, doll-like creatures announces that he's finally awake. She bolts upright in a strange bed, startled by the bizarre figures surrounding her. Clutching her bandaged shoulder, she wonders what these things are and where she is. The room is a cluttered workshop, filled with the strange trinkets of a sorcerer. Her mind races, trying to connect the bloody forest to this bizarre, unfamiliar place. A mysterious masked woman appears, casually greeting the girl she's apparently rescued. One of the strange creatures chimes in, calling her completely crazy. Faya scrambles back, demanding to know who her mysterious rescuer is. The masked woman's answer is chillingly direct, revealing she knows exactly who Faya is looking for. She introduces herself with a title that freezes Faya's blood, the Forest Witch. The revelation hits like a physical blow, sending Faya reeling in shock and terror. She trembles uncontrollably, the name of her mother's captor echoing in her mind. But a familiar voice cuts in, scolding the witch for messing with her patient. The hunter appears, introducing the woman as Shan and revealing this is her cabin. Faya is utterly lost, recognizing the man from the forest but understanding nothing. He explains they're both voodoo sorcerers and they found her after the Elwa's rampage. The hunter introduces himself as Pellini, a beast hunter, and Faya timidly gives her name. Pellini asks what she remembers, but Faya's mind is a painful blank, recalling only a twisted, ominous hut. Shan dismisses it as a defense against trauma, then bluntly tells Faya she made a massive mistake. She schools the girl, explaining that no voodoo sorcerer is foolish enough to offer their own body as a price. But Faya's memory floods back, recalling Masked Child, the beasts, and the Forest Witch, much to Shan's surprise. She explains Masked Child's bond, then gets distracted by the strange, cute figures on her bed. Shan suddenly explodes, screaming at Faya not to touch her things carelessly. After a quick apology, she explains they're totems, vessels for souls that tried to ward off Faya's nightmares. Faya realizes with dawning horror that these vessels are also places where Lua can dwell and interfere. Shan holds up the broken mask, delivering a grim warning. The Lua inside will continue to torment her. Shan explains that Lua come in all flavors, friendly, dangerous, and just plain weird. And Faya's Lua is the worst kind, a creature of pure resentment that will hijack her body for a joyride of destruction. She demonstrates that Lua-inhabited objects are nearly indestructible, making Faya wonder how Pellini even cracked the mask. Faya asks if she's stuck like this, and Shan confirms she's a ticking time bomb waiting for the Elwa to wake up. Pellini calmly examines one of the totems, preparing to offer his own insight. Faya questions if she can trust them, but their words echo the lessons her mother once taught. The memory of her mother steals her resolve, a silent promise in her weary eyes. Just then, Pellini cuts in, revealing there's a difficult but possible solution to her Elwa problem. A flicker of hope ignites in Faya's eyes as she desperately asks what it is. Pellini presents a sealed invitation, declaring that to solve a voodoo problem, you need more voodoo. He reveals a solution lies south with an organization dedicated to liberating slaves. This group, House, is a revolutionary force of voodoo sorcerers who might just help her. But Shan cuts in, warning the journey is perilous and it might be easier to just end Faya's life now. Faya stares at the broken mask, weighing the impossible choice before her. Shan reminds her that the path of a voodoo sorcerer is not one just anyone can walk. Faya recalls her mother's sacrifice, sold into slavery just to protect her powerless daughter. She accepts the terrible things she's done, knowing there's no turning back from the path she's on. With grim resolve, Faya decides she has no choice but to walk forward, even if it leads to more pain. She declares her one true wish, to get her mother back from the clutches of the forest witch. Faya remembers her solemn promise to her mom, a vow that they would never be separated again. To achieve her goal, Faya declares she is willing to sacrifice everything she has left. She accepts her new path, vowing to become a voodoo sorceress to break all her chains. Her mission is now crystal clear: get her mother back from the forest witch. With newfound conviction, Faya announces this is the one and only wish she will fight for. A small totem creature perches on her shoulder, a silent companion on her new path. Shan orders Pellini to prepare for departure, confident Faya's mother is still alive. Pellini reveals their destination is a strange city to the south, the headquarters of House. They are headed to Maize, the legendary city of voodoo sorcerers where all desires gather. The scene shifts to a dark forest under a brilliant, starry night sky. A mysterious figure floats just above the ground, surrounded by sinister, shadowy tendrils. A hooded figure stands amidst the shadowy remains of defeated foes. But even after this victory, a quiet voice declares it's still not enough. This mysterious sorcerer is driven by a need for something far greater. Holding a twisted mask, they reveal their true target, the slaves of desire. A new scene begins with a warning to be wary of the desires in our hearts. For these desires are monsters that devour souls, creating disgusting beasts. A blindfolded woman calls it a bottomless abyss, a spiral with no escape. She preaches to a group of captives, telling tales of an ancient comet's warning. But two onlookers mock the scene, revealing this nun is part of a powerful cult. In a chilling twist, the nun reveals her cult is essential to the empire's slave trade. They whisper that her blindness must mean she's a pardoned one, a former criminal. One guard jokes it's why she's so friendly with the slaves, while his friend warns him to shut up. A stark reminder hangs in the air. Messing with cultists is a very bad idea. Elsewhere, a young sorcerer in training tries to catch a shadowy rabbit with dark tendrils. But his grasp is too slow, the creature slipping through his fingers with ease. The boy laughs off his failure, but his mentor looks on with a stern expression. His teacher reveals this is a lesson in maskless voodoo, urging him to try again. The lesson continues, explaining that all voodoo is fueled by willpower, the raw energy of desire. This power is amplified through a pact, a simple exchange between a sorcerer seeking strength and a Elwa craving a body. A chosen sorcerer can even wield pure willpower alone, unleashing devastating attacks like blue lightning. Pellini explains that even without weapons, Faya's bond with Mask Child grants her the power of pure willpower. He assures her the Elwa is now in a deep sleep, bound by Shan's voodoo as a price for its rampage. But Shan's magic is temporary, so their first mission is to reach the city of Maize before the Elwa wakes up. With a silent nod, Faya accepts her new, dangerous path. She asks about Pellini's own Elwa, learning it's a shy Elwa of wishes, the polar opposite of her own. Pellini reveals all Elwa are categorized by the 5 winds, representing the core emotions that fuel them. He connects Faya's power to the wind of resentment, a fact she quietly absorbs. Faya wishes Shan had joined their journey, but Pellini admits he learned everything he knows from her. Instead of coming along, Shan entrusted them with one of her precious totems as a guide. Pellini gently tucks the little spirit away, telling it to stay hidden for now. Faya recalls Shan's words, revealing Pellini was already heading to Maize on his own mission. Back in the present, Pellini gently adjusts Faya's cloak to hide the marks of her past. He gives her a grim warning: being recognized as a former slave only brings trouble. Faya finally asks the question on her mind: why are they helping a total stranger? Pellini hesitates, a shadow of his own painful history crossing his face. His thoughts drift to Iron Mask, a bitter memory he quickly pushes aside. He explains that in a world that hunts them, voodoo sorcerers must stick together to survive. While some, like the Forest Witch, are evil, most are just trying to get by. Pellini's gaze hardens with resolve, declaring he must become a better person himself. A flashback reveals he was once saved by strangers, and now he's simply paying that kindness forward. Faya reflects on the cruelty of the world, a question she simply can't answer. Her thoughts drift to Tanir, a painful reminder of all she's lost on this journey. Their path is suddenly blocked by a horrifying display of twisted, staked figures. Faya recoils in terror, recognizing the grotesque forms as desecrated bodies. She can only stare in disbelief, her voice trembling as she asks what she's seeing. Pellini grimly explains these are totems, made from the souls of the dead to ward off beasts. He points out a symbol, identifying the creators as an anti-voodoo sect. and their sworn enemies. The horrifying truth hits Faya. This could have been her and her mother's fate. But her grim realization is cut short as Pellini signals for absolute silence. He warns that the totems may have attracted the very monsters they were meant to repel. Pellini yanks Faya behind him, his instincts screaming of an unseen threat. Suddenly, a figure in black collapses right in front of them with a startled cry. Pellini can only stare, completely baffled by this new development. The fallen figure is a blindfolded woman, a nun from the anti-voodoo cult. But instead of a threat, she just smiles weakly and asks for some food. Faya is just as confused, wondering if this is some kind of bizarre trap. Despite their suspicions, they offer the stranger a warm meal. The nun devours the food, claiming they saved her life on her journey. Faya whispers to Pellini, reminding him that a cultist is the last person they should trust. Pellini probes for information, asking why a blind nun is traveling these dangerous roads all by herself. The nun claims she travels alone, unafraid of beasts thanks to her cult's protection. She then drops a bombshell, asking if they're the very voodoo sorcerers her cult hunts. Faya's panicked denial is cut short as the woman reveals she already knows the truth. With a smile, the nun explains her blindness has sharpened her other senses, especially her smell. She assures them she has no hostility, despite their peculiar scent and her own beliefs. Pellini tries to change the subject, asking for a nearby village to avoid any trouble. The nun eagerly offers to guide them, immediately contradicting her claim of being a lone traveler. Pellini weighs his options, realizing that traveling with her might be the safest way through cult territory. He deduces her pardoned status explains her solo journey, confident he can handle her if she's a threat. Before he can object, the nun pats Faya's head, cheerfully declaring their meeting is a matter of fate. The nun introduces herself as Rota, her friendly gesture doing little to ease Faya's suspicion. Faya reluctantly gives her own name, her eyes betraying a deep-seated distrust. Yet something about Rota's presence strangely reminds Faya of her own mother. Their new guide leads them to a village that looks more like a forgotten ruin. The settlement is eerily silent, with every window and door boarded shut. Rota is strangely excited by the mystery, much to Pellini's visible annoyance. But Faya's sharp eyes notice the truth. This ghost town isn't empty at all. She realizes the entire population is barricaded inside their homes, hiding from something. Rhoda's smile widens as her heightened senses pick up the distinct scent of blood. Just then, a monstrous beast erupts from the shadows, revealing the source of the village's terror. A lone child sits in shock, surrounded by the brutal aftermath of a beast attack. Overwhelmed by terror, she can only sob at the horrifying scene before her. From the shadows, Pellini and Faya spot the girl, trapped between two more monsters. Pellini realizes the cult's totems failed, as he charges his prosthetic hand with lightning. But Rhoda remains unnervingly calm, simply stating that there is no other choice. Without a second thought, Pellini unleashes a devastating lightning strike at the beasts. The attack vaporizes the monsters in a brilliant flash, clearing the path instantly. The rescued girl stares up in wide-eyed shock as her saviors approach. The trio rushes to her side, asking if she's hurt and what happened to the adults. But their questions are cut short as an angry villager emerges, demanding to know who they are. The villager reveals their horrifying plan. They used the sick as bait, and the child was an unlucky casualty. But another man scoffs, his gratitude vanishing as he brands them as voodoo sorcerers. An angry mob surrounds the trio, accusing them of being heretics trying to kidnap the child. The rescued girl's mother rallies the crowd, demanding they teach the sorcerers a lesson. Faya is stunned, realizing these people were too scared to fight the beast but have no problem fighting them. Pellini sighs at the familiar prejudice, preparing for a fight he knows is inevitable. The villagers descend into a frenzy, screaming that this heretical power must be eliminated immediately. But Rhoda steps forward, raising a hand to stop the impending violence. She calmly lies, claiming she's a nun escorting these sorcerers to the capital on the Emperor's command. Rhoda spins a wild tale, declaring them the Emperor's lost children who have repented for their heretical ways. Rhoda invokes the name of the Emperor and the comet, guaranteeing their safety with a confident smile. Faya can't believe her ears, wondering if it's okay for a nun to lie so shamelessly. But the real question is whether this angry mob will actually fall for such an obvious farce. In a shocking turn, the villagers' defiance shatters, their faces hitting the floor in a terrified bow. And just like that, the angry mob becomes gracious hosts, offering the holy pilgrims a grand feast. They beg the trio to put in a good word with the cult, revealing their hospitality is fueled by pure fear. One villager tries to play it cool, nervously joking as he urges them to get comfortable. An old man chimes in with a sinister smile, inviting them to stay for as long as they want. Rhoda graciously accepts their kindness, blessing them in the comet's name while Faya watches in disbelief. As the old man walks away, his creepy grin suggests their warm welcome is anything but. The old man offers a blessing, but his sinister gaze promises anything but. While Faya remains silent, Rhoda happily devours the feast without a care in the world. Pellini dryly comments on Rhoda's impressive appetite as she continues to eat. Rhoda fires back, declaring that enjoying good food is her creed, none or not. But Faya has lost her appetite, haunted by the memory of the grotesque totems. The ever-observant Rhoda turns to Faya, asking why she isn't eating. Faya thanks her for the help, but can't understand how Rhoda can remain so cheerful. She struggles to comprehend the villagers' cruelty and their sudden, fearful hospitality. Rhoda begins to explain her philosophy, her words hanging in the tense air. With a knowing smile, she simply says that's how the world is, hoping they can be better. Rhoda reminds Faya of her kindness, pointing out she shared her meal earlier. Faya realizes her mom and Tanir did the same, just trying to survive a cruel world. But Pellini's expression is grim, sensing a darkness lurking beneath the surface. His mind races with suspicion, connecting the village's strange atmosphere to the elders' odd behavior. He can't shake the feeling that the feast in front of them might be a trap. Pellini admits his distrust extends to everyone, including the suspiciously cheerful nun. He debates warning Faya, but hesitates, wondering if he's just being overly cautious. While Rhoda eats without a care, Pellini's suspicion grows, contrasting with Faya's faint smile. Their meal is interrupted as the rescued girl's mother calls out to her children. The kids peek out from hiding, their eyes wide with a fear that chills Faya to the bone. Rhoda casually reaches for Pellini's food, much to Faya's wide-eyed surprise. The nun shares a quiet moment with the children, who seem to have finally calmed down. Pellini grumbles that he was saving his meal, his suspicion of the mind-reading nun growing. Their mother reveals a grim truth. The village is defenseless, and her own mother was a recent victim. Faya's heart aches for the children, whispering how terrible their loss must be. She sees a reflection of her own pain in them, knowing they too have lost someone precious. Faya reflects on the harshness of life, realizing everyone is just trying not to be devoured by the world. But the older girl smiles, revealing they have a protector named Molly to keep them safe. A confused Faya asks if Molly is their dog, trying to picture their guardian. Rhoda insists Molly is a cat, but the younger sister furiously declares they're both wrong. The little girl calls for Molly, dismissing the sound of chains as just a bird. Faya and Pellini's eyes widen in disbelief at what they're about to see. With the rattling of chains, the girl tells them to say hello to their protector. She proudly introduces Molly, a hulking, chained man who is anything but a pet. Molly's vacant eye reveals a madness hidden beneath the village's innocent facade. Later that night, a monstrous roar shatters the village's feigned peace. Inside, the village elder is hunched over, clearly unwell and agitated. He complains that Iron Mask never delivered his promised wagon of goods. The elder coughs violently, his frustration boiling over into a monstrous craving. With a terrifying scream, he reveals his true nature. "I'm still hungry." The elder berates one of his men, kicking him aside for his failure. He gives another man a terrifying ultimatum: prepare a new offering by tonight or become one himself. Pellini's unease solidifies, comparing the village to an inescapable prison. He knows they have to leave soon, as Rhoda's lies won't protect them forever. Pellini confirms the food wasn't poisoned, but announces they're leaving this creepy village at dawn. Rhoda agrees the village is unsettling, but cheerfully admits the food was still delicious. She holds up a small totem, declaring their brief alliance with the villagers is officially over. When Faya points out he never slept, Pellini simply states he's used to the vigilance. His weary response leaves Faya speechless, a flicker of concern in her eyes. She then makes a startling request, asking if they can take the slave Molly with them. Faya points to Molly's countless scars, insisting his cruel treatment isn't living and that she has to help him. But Pellini coldly refuses, stating that Molly is the village's property, and freeing him is impossible. The word property sends Faya into a rage, but Rhoda calmly tries to intervene. Rhoda reminds her that acting on emotion is reckless, and some cruelties just can't be helped. She questions if Faya intends to save every pitiful soul they meet on their journey. The nun reminds Faya of her true goal, warning her not to lose sight of finding her mother. But Faya can't shake the image of the children treating the chained man like a pet. With a stomp of her foot, Faya's resolve hardens, her eyes glowing with a familiar, dangerous power. Their debate is cut short as the older girl runs in screaming that a beast has taken her little brother. Rhoda rushes to comfort the terrified child, asking where all the adults have gone. The girl's face crumples in despair, tears streaming down her face. She looks up at them, declaring that asking the adults for help is completely useless. A single discarded shoe emphasizes her chilling words. All the adults in the village are cowards. Elsewhere, the villagers are on their knees, praying to their strange comet symbol. The elder sweats profusely, begging to be saved from the very misguided desires that rule him. Done waiting, Pellini and Rhoda burst into action, deciding to handle the beast themselves. Rhoda leads the way, shouting that her heightened senses have picked up a trail. Pellini admits he's only with her to protect Faya, forcing the nun to reveal her real name isn't Rota. The two sorcerers race towards the danger, a blur of motion against the darkness. Left behind, Faya screams from a window, begging them not to leave her out of the fight. Faya confronts Pellini, questioning his hypocrisy for saving the children but not the slave. Pellini's cold gaze cuts through her argument, knowing she's just twisting words. But Faya screams back, insisting that every life has value, no matter the circumstance. Rhoda admits Faya's words are right, but grimly adds that this world doesn't run on ideals alone. The nun's heightened senses pick up a stronger scent, her voice laced with concern. They press on, stepping into the dark maw of what can only be the monster's nest. Pellini suddenly halts their advance, his instincts screaming of a nearby presence. He whispers that their target is just ahead, hidden in the suffocating darkness. Their search leads them to a single, locked wooden door standing in the gloom. With a slow creak, the door swings open, revealing the horrors that lie within. With a surge of dark power, Faya shatters the lock on Molly's cell. Inside, the chained man looks up, his eyes empty and his face a canvas of scars. Faya steps into the grim room, finding the very person she was forbidden to help. Molly's voice is a hoarse whisper as he questions the sudden appearance of a stranger. Ignoring Pellini's warning, Faya introduces herself and declares she's breaking him out. She explains the villagers are cowering from a beast, but Molly can only stare in confusion. Faya's eyes gleam with resolve, recalling that voodoo is the power to grant wishes. Channeling her willpower, she shatters his chains, declaring his freedom is her only desire. Molly stares at his freed hands, the feeling of liberation completely alien to him. Faya urges him to escape into the forest, warning him of the beasts before she has to leave. Molly thanks Faya, but reveals his sister couldn't endure their brutal life. Before he vanishes into the forest, he turns back with one final question. He asks why she would risk everything to help him, wondering what she could possibly gain. Faya recalls the faces of both cruelty and kindness, admitting she once thought the same. She declares that to survive this world, they must be better, and sometimes you have to be the first to offer a hand. Faya asks him to pay her kindness forward, hoping he'll help someone else one day. Molly stares back in silence, her simple words hitting him with unexpected force. With a newfound resolve, he promises to repay the kindness she's shown him. Faya's thoughts turn to her mother, fearing she's suffering the same fate and vowing to find her soon. Her mission clear, she takes a determined step forward to find Rhoda and Pellini. But a familiar mocking voice cuts through her thoughts, calling her a foolish little brat. Faya's eyes glow as Masked Child awakens, laughing that she's already caught in its spiral. The Elwa's voice echoes through her mind, promising this is a spiral she can never escape. Meanwhile, the monstrous beast holds the captured boy, ready to claim its prize. But Pellini's hand glows with power, preparing to intervene with overwhelming force. He unleashes a concentrated blast of voodoo energy straight at the creature. The monster's desperate defense is shattered by the piercing attack. With a roar of agony, the beast is sent stumbling back from the powerful blow. Pellini orders Rhoda to take the child and run while he handles the monster alone. The beast howls in pain, its eye filled with rage as it demands to know who dares to challenge it. Pellini is stunned to realize this isn't just a beast. It's intelligent. The monster reveals its true nature, a person twisted by desire, warning Pellini to stay out of its meal. It confesses to devouring slaves, even complaining that its last victim wasn't fattening up. The beast then mentions a deal with Iron Mask, a name that instantly gets Pellini's attention. It reveals the cowardly villagers offered a child as a sacrifice because they were too afraid to face the cult. In a fit of rage, the beast unleashes a storm of dark projectiles, screaming in frustration. The deadly attack rains down, a chaotic display of raw, corrupted power. Pellini braces himself, recognizing this immense strength is fueled by consumed human souls. But a new voice emerges from the beast, the village elder, trying to redirect the monster's hunger onto Pellini. Done with the chatter, Pellini points his hand and prepares to silence the elder with a lightning strike. Pellini declares he's already damaged goods, ready to sacrifice an arm for this fight. But his powerful lightning attack fizzles out, having no effect on the beast. The monster roars in agony, realizing even sacrificing its own arm isn't enough to win. It screams in pain, its own corrupted body turning against it in the heat of battle. With a final desperate roar, the beast lunges forward to crush its opponent. But its massive hand is stopped dead in its tracks by a much smaller yet powerful figure. Elsewhere, Faya is consumed by regret, wishing she had just listened to her companions. A dark voice whispers in her mind, blaming her choices for the chaos that's unfolded. The Elwa agrees with her despair, its clawed hand a promise of what's to come. Mask Child seizes its chance, telling Faya that it's the only one she can rely on now. The Elwa claims her kindness was a curse, as the slave was doomed to a life of suffering. It declares this is the price she must pay for her foolish, meaningless good deeds. The spirit mocks her, revealing that breaking one chain of revenge only forges countless more. Inside its nest, the Elwa calls these new chains her karma, a weight she must carry to find her mother. Defeating Iron Mask wasn't an end, but the first step into a much larger, inescapable conflict. The Elwa twists her own words, questioning her right to decide who lives and who dies. It tells her to stop struggling, as she's already trapped in its inescapable spiral. And in this endless spiral of desire, there is simply no way out. But with her resolve hardened by despair, Faya finally makes a choice. She strikes a deal with the devil, fully embracing the power of Mask Child. Faya lies on the ground, completely unresponsive after her deal with the Elwa. Pellini rushes to her side, desperately trying to shake her back to consciousness. He holds her close, his voice filled with concern as he asks if she's okay. But her eyes are wide and vacant, lost in the Lawa's dark influence. The mask's eyes glow ominously, a sign that the spirit is now in control. Elsewhere, Rhoda quietly wonders if the tragic outcome could have been avoided. A lone frog listens as she admits she always regrets the past, even when it's pointless. Pellini dismisses the details, knowing Faya's actions are just a small part of a bigger problem. His thoughts drift to the tragic scene, knowing that while the dead can't return, the villagers are now facing the brutal consequences of their own cruel choices. Rhoda questions Pellini, recalling Faya's story about 2 wagons leaving the camp. Pellini confirms one wagon was for the forest witch, while the other was a private buffet for the village elder. But Rhoda reveals the second wagon's location is a complete mystery. Pellini clenches his fist, wondering just how long this village has been rotten to the core. A voice from the defeated beast whispers that it's still alive. The elder's severed head lies on the ground, somehow still speaking to the horrified onlookers. With a final tear, the head insists they will never understand his choices. He explains that in a cruel world, he had no choice but to become a monster himself. A flashback reveals his village was destroyed by war, and his desire to rebuild it birthed his power. But that same overwhelming desire eventually twisted and consumed his very soul. The elder's head mocks Pellini, calling him an arrogant sorcerer destined for the same fate. With its last breath, it warns that soon, Pellini will also be consumed by his own desires. Pellini clenches his fist, turning his attention to the one person he still doesn't trust. He confronts Rhoda, demanding to know her own desires in a world that breeds cruelty. Rhoda explains that unchecked desire is a poison that turns even good people into monsters. Her calm expression hides a story of her own, one deeply connected to this very tragedy. She reveals a shocking truth. Her father was a voodoo sorcerer who helped people in secret. But just like the elder, her father was consumed by his own power and became a beast. Pellini's suspicion flares, questioning why he should believe such a convenient tale. Rhoda calmly explains the cult spared her, forcing her to atone for her father's sins by becoming a nun. She claims she must carry her father's burden, a past that made her cunning and unreadable. Pellini isn't buying it, internally questioning if a single word of her story is true. Her convenient tale forces him to reflect on his own history of half-truths. He's caught between Faya's naive ideals and the world's brutal reality. A flashback reveals a younger man from his past who once shared that same idealism. But that idealism came at a terrible cost, a sin he was forced to pay for. Pellini remembers the boy's foolish desire, a memory that still cuts deep. The memory shifts to a training exercise, with Shan scolding the boy for not using his power. Her Elwa joins in, screaming at the brat for ignoring its guidance. The boy presents his meager catch to Pellini and Shan, a testament to his failed lesson. The boy complains that his loud-mouthed partner scared off all their potential prey. Polini offers a less than enthusiastic good work to the young sorcerer. Sean whispers to Polini, speculating Faya's sudden de-aging is the price for her deal with the Elwha. The flashback continues, showing the boy arguing fiercely with Shan's equally noisy Elwha. But even with the failed hunt, a tiny totem spirit happily prepares their meal. The three sorcerers share a quiet meal together, a rare moment of peace. Sean blesses Faya, declaring that mealtime is truly a sacred, happy moment. Her peaceful facade shatters as she suddenly lunges for the boy's sandwich. He fights back, yelling at her to return his food and complaining about his endless hunger. All the while, Shan's Elwha cheers them on, loving the chaos and resentment. The boy screams as he's hit with a powerful, disorienting blow to the head. Faya, now a boy, tells Shan's Elwha to shut up, while Shan keeps trying to steal his food. Polini watches the chaotic memory, a look of silent exhaustion on his face. Back in the present, he reflects on how much Faya has changed since the village incident. He wonders if her transformation is just a side effect of the deal, or if the mask is involved. Noticing Shan's protective tattoo has vanished, he turns to Rhoda to ask about her plans. Rhoda is pleased he used her name, but explains she must continue spreading the comet's word. Polini accepts her decision, suggesting they part ways after their meal is finished. But as he reaches for his sandwich, he discovers it's been swarmed by disgusting insects. With a cry of disgust, he violently throws the infested meal to the ground. Faya scolds Polini for wasting food, recalling that as a slave, anything was a meal. But Polini frantically warns her this is no ordinary infestation. It's a voodoo attack. His terror is justified as a grotesque curse begins to erupt from his own face. He shoves Faya to safety, yelling for her to run as the curse violently takes hold. The horrific scene is reflected in Faya's wide, terrified eye. She can only scream his name as he collapses, completely overcome by the attack. Her horror doubles as she sees Rhoda has also succumbed to the same strange affliction. Rhoda's face is now a twisted canvas, confirming Faya's worst fears about the curse. A sinister presence emerges from the shadows, identifying the attack as the dreaded plague. A single buzzing fly appears, speaking with an eerie calm and confirming Faya is unharmed. The mysterious sorcerer wonders if Faya is somehow resistant to their insect poison. This new foe reveals Faya's survival was definitely not part of their plan. Faya demands to know why another voodoo sorcerer would attack them out of nowhere. Her anger boils over as she realizes this person was also behind her village's destruction. The attacker's eye glows, uttering a single ominous word, mushroom. A massive wave of fungi erupts from the ground in a devastating display of power. But Faya stands completely unfazed, now protected by her Elwha's dark energy. Their foe mutters that they were supposed to bring back bodies, but this complicates things. They reveal a shocking connection, admitting they made a promise to the forest witch. But as they reach for a mushroom, a dark tendril suddenly pierces their hand. The mysterious sorcerer coughs, declaring through the dust that this fight is far from over. They recognize the insect-based voodoo, identifying it as the dreaded plague. This foe reveals a painful familiarity, having witnessed the same power in their own village. All their rage points to one person, screaming that the forest witch is behind all of this. Faya is genuinely shocked, wondering how her opponent is still standing after that last attack. Their story unfolds, revealing they were once powerless as the plague consumed their home. Becoming a sorcerer was supposed to be the key to achieving their one true desire, but a painful flashback shows them helpless on the ground, calling out Faya's name in desperation. They lament that as a child, they were too weak to save even a single slave from their chains. Faya just stares at her hand, completely baffled by her opponent's rambling monologue. A flashback reveals Faya's grim decision, her face set with determination. She formally strikes a new bargain with the ever-present mask child. The Elwha scoffs, questioning what a powerless slave could possibly have left to offer. But Faya's response cuts through the darkness, a chilling promise of a greater sacrifice. She offers the one thing she has left, her conscience and all the guilt that comes with it. In exchange, Faya demands to wield the Elwha's power, adding a new condition to their unbreakable pact. With a desperate plea, she asks if the spirit will accept her heavy price. The Elwha agrees, granting her 10 minutes of control a day, confident it's getting the better end of the deal. Back in the present, Faya smirks at her confused opponent and tells the Elwha to start the clock. She then barks an order at the attacker, demanding they spit out weapons on command. The attacker furiously rejects Faya's command, refusing to be ordered around by a brat. But Faya is now in charge, coolly telling her opponent to just follow her lead. The foe recognizes Faya's mask, muttering that she should have just stayed down. With a grim look, the attacker reveals they too have promises they're fighting to keep. Faya's new philosophy is clear. No more regret, no more guilt for the lives she couldn't save. If she's trapped in a spiral of desire, she'll be the one holding the chains from now on. The attacker declares their new goal: defeat Faya's crew and then hunt down the forest witch for revenge. Faya smirks at the challenge, daring them to try and defeat a genius like her. With their goals set, the two sorcerers lunge at each other, kicking off an explosive battle.